matter, but only 5% of that matter is visible to us, which leaves 95% of the universe unknown to us. The thing that's interesting about this matter, though, is it's not like the matter that's here on Earth. From me to Jeff Phillips, there's atoms, there's molecules, there's atoms, there's things between us. But when you get out into space, in the vacuum of space, there's nothing. The thing that's interesting about dark matter and dark energy, though, is we can measure its effects on other objects. We can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't touch it, but we can feel the effects on other objects. Sort of sounds like something else we know about that we can't see, we can't feel, we can't touch, but we can feel its effects. This is an image taken from the Hubble Space Telescope. The thing that's cool about this is the blue rings. Scientists first thought these were artifacts from an image. What they found out is this is dark matter. I'm amazed when science can't figure things out. We think we can solve all the problems. You can put thousands of songs in our pocket in an iPod. We can cure diseases. We can do a lot of things, but sometimes we can't figure it out. And in January of 2013, scientists found something else. They went to the deepest reaches of space, 9 billion light years away. Now, I need to give you some context of what a light year is. First of all, the Milky Way galaxy, which we live in, planet Earth, 100,000 light years across. So we're looking at an object 9 billion light years. Well, what is a light year? Light travels at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. So if we think about our Earth, in 1 second, a beam of light will go around the Earth 7.5 times. Putting it differently, a light year, about 7 trillion miles. A lot of space. So if you think about 9 billion miles away times 6 trillion miles, can anybody do that math? My mind explodes. It's a big, big number. And the thing that was amazing in 2013 is scientists reached out to the deepest parts of space. They thought they couldn't find what they found, and they found a large quasar cluster. Quasars are the generation, the moving force in the universe to generate galaxies, to generate stars. And they found something that they thought they could not see. It was 4 billion light years across. 73 quasars compacted into this massive part of space. I have to read this because I always get it wrong. This is from the lead scientist on the project. He said, "So this represents a challenge to us. It represents a challenge to our current understanding and now creates mystery rather than solves one." Isn't it interesting? Where we think it's impossible, somehow becomes possible. I love space. I have a telescope. It's collecting a lot of dust right now, but I love looking at space. I wanted to be an astronaut growing up. I still have my second grade bulletin. My mom saved it where it said, "Jeff Sharp wants to be an astronaut." I came up short. But I've been fascinated by the Hubble Space Telescope. In 1990, we launched the Hubble Space Telescope. It cost us about $2.5 billion to make. A lot of money. And something really interesting happened when we launched the Hubble Space Telescope. They opened the shutter, started taking these images, and it didn't work. Now, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I'm happy to say I've never made a $2.5 billion mistake. But this is great. The great thing about the human spirit, we did not stop. We took on an ambitious endeavor to fix the Hubble Space Telescope. And then something, what I think is absolutely miraculous happened. In 2004, scientists did the most crazy thing that you would ever think of. And here's what I want everybody to do. Hold your arm out at arm's length. Pinch your fingers like you're grabbing a grain of sand. Scientists pointed the Hubble Space Telescope at right below the belt of Orion, at a point in space where they thought there was nothing. The size that they pointed it at fit into a size of a grain of sand that you are holding in your finger right now. The blackest of black, the darkest of dark, where we thought we would find nothing. So the scientists let the telescope orbit 11 complete orbits around the Earth for 11 days and 400 orbits. The Hubble Space Telescope went around the Earth. As you can imagine, they paused. When they brought back the image, this is what they saw. Those aren't stars. Those aren't planets. Those aren't moons. Those are galaxies. If you take the time, there are 10,000 galaxies on that picture. This is called the Hubble Ultra Deep Field Image. You should Google it. You should YouTube it. There are awesome images. In that little grain of sand, 10,000 galaxies. Once again, where we thought there was blackness and nothingness, we find amazing wonder and awe. In 1773, Charles Messier, one of the leading astrophysicists, found out about M51A. Now, if you're a scientist, can you come up with a better name than M51A? And its little sister, M51B, in the upper right-hand corner. This is the Whirlpool Galaxy. I've shared this image with a few people. The Whirlpool Galaxy is an amazing galaxy. It sits on its side. We get to see a great image of it. And the cool thing is, it's only 23 million light years away. So it's really close. In reality, you can see the Whirlpool Galaxy. The great thing about the Whirlpool Galaxy is it's also 60 million light years across. And when we study galaxies, the thing that scientists think are at the center of a galaxy are supermassive black holes. We could spend all night on supermassive black holes, but I only have 3 more hours. And it's a school night. But at the center, even of our Milky Way galaxy, is believed to be a supermassive black hole. There's something really interesting, though, if you want to look a little bit closer at the Whirlpool Galaxy. Where we think there's a supermassive black hole is this. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder if the Creator said, I need you to look a little bit deeper. Makes you wonder if we need to look a little bit more closely. Makes you wonder if God is leaving His thumbprint for us to find. Now, I've shown you a few of my favorite photos, but I've really searched to find the photo that shows the emptiness, where we think there's nothing, but there really is a whole lot more going on. We thought the tomb was empty. And it brings us back to the travelers that we read about on the road to Emmaus. We thought we would go to the tomb and we find nothing. We learn about the travelers walking with Jesus. They can't see Him. Makes you wonder why. We have to really think about what the travelers had just gone through. They'd spent all their lives with expectations of what Jesus could or would or should be. They spent all their time thinking about how their lives are going to turn out. And let's face it, they're walking along, they're broken, they're lost. They thought their lives were going to turn out a certain way, and yet God had a different plan. So Jesus comes on the scene. It's a great scene. They're walking along, they can't see Him. And we ask ourselves, why can't they see Jesus? Well, these are my own thoughts. Maybe they weren't ready. Maybe they had just gone through a really, really hard time. They thought their lives were going to turn out one way, and it turned out totally different. Maybe they couldn't experience the fullness of Jesus' resurrection, the glory that God was ready to shine on them. Maybe they just needed some time. Now, the thing that I really find interesting about this passage is the road to Emmaus is about 7 miles. If you think about a normal walking person, that would take anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours that these guys had with Jesus. Makes you wonder, what did they talk about? What did they ask him? I find it interesting, though, that in their deepest, darkest time, where they thought all was empty, all was lost, that Jesus showed up. He was there right beside them. And isn't it interesting, they thought their lives were over, and Jesus shows up. And isn't it interesting, where they saw nothing, Jesus enters the scene and leads them forward. Now, it's easy for me to get up here and say all this, that, life is easy. It's not. We go through some dark times. And this leads me to a very profound question, even a question I've had to ask myself, is, what do you see when you look in the mirror at night? Do you see the divine breath of God shining in you? Do you see the brightness of billions of galaxies that God has breathed into you? Or do you see the emptiness, like the travelers with Jesus? Do you see that I can't go forward? It's interesting when things happen in our life, things that aren't great, that we retreat a little bit. We take a step back. We put a thin barrier between us and our families and friends. And slowly we retreat and move back. I don't think that's what Jesus wants for us. I think Jesus is calling us forward. He is calling us to move forward. So, let me just get preachy for a moment. If you look in the mirror at night and you see emptiness, please reach out. We've got a wonderful staff at Crossroads that would be willing to listen. Don't let your eyes be masked like our travelers. Be able to see the light and breath of Jesus. You are truly not alone. And I know sometimes you say, well, how do I lean on Jesus? Sometimes you talk to a friend. Sometimes you become brutally honest with where you are in life. And sometimes you just have to reach out. But there's an interesting paradox to this, because sometimes we're going through a good time. If you are one of those people where you look in the mirror, yes, Jesus, you have blessed me. Reach out. There is someone that needs your help. There's someone that desperately needs to see the vibrancy of life. When I look out among this group of wonderful people, when you put your energy into something, you can go for it. If you miss Pastor Rob's service on Sunday, please go on YouTube and listen to it. There's a powerful message I think everybody needs to hear. So we've asked ourselves, we looked into the darkness, we see nothing. We think the world is empty. We think sometimes our lives are empty. And Jesus enters on the scene. I have a few more thoughts. I want you to know what God sees in you, not what you see when you look in the mirror. Jeremiah wrote it. He said, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And in Ephesians, Paul writes, "But now in Christ Jesus, you who were once far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ." And then from the Psalms, Psalm 33. "From the heaven the Lord looks down and sees all mankind. From his dwelling place he watches all who live on earth. He who forms the hearts of all, who considers everything they do. I just want to do something different tonight, but I've chosen not to do it. I want you all to just pause. If you had 2 hours with Jesus, what would you ask him? What would you talk about? I'm just going to pause on that for a minute. When you go home tonight, think about that. Think about those 2 hours that you have with Jesus. And some of you say, I don't have 2 hours. I really can't find the time. Take a minute. Take 20 seconds. Really think about what you would ask him. What does he say? And there's one last question I would ask all of you to ponder before we break up. What is God calling you to do? We think about the 2 men walking with Jesus. And my feeling is Jesus is getting them ready for something else. What is Jesus calling you to do? Where is he leading you? And so that's it, guys. We started with 6,000 stars. We went to 10 sextillion stars. We went to the center of a black hole. And we found so much more going on than we ever thought possible. And so as you go home tonight, think about it. Pray about it. Think about 2 hours with Jesus, where you think there's nothing. What is he calling you to do? My friends, our world is a paradox. It can be filled with emptiness, and it can also be filled with the shining brightness of billions and billions of stars. So may you, when you walk out, see the light of galaxies burning brightly in you. May you move forward knowing that there's so much more going on than any of us can see. And may you move forward knowing that Jesus is calling you, leading your life, even in the darkest times. He is walking beside you. Hallelujah. And all God's children say, Amen.